The problem with your strategy is it's wrong and long.
If you are trying to create the future, this is it for you. Strategy therapy, let's start with who it's not for. It's not for people in mature categories, for large companies, or people who have a belief system that the academics and the people who are known for strategy actually are the experts on strategy. So if that's kind of you, just be aware that this might not be a good fit for you. But for those of you who are actually trying to create a new different, whether you're a creator, an entrepreneur, early stage or hyper growth startup, or if you are trying to create a new business within an existing category or launch a new product, anybody trying to create the future, this is it for you, because what you have found undoubtedly is that the strategy playbooks for creating the future don't exist. Most of everything that's been written is about how do you actually win in the past or the present. And so if that is you from a mindset perspective, it's a good opportunity for you. If you're trying to raise money and you just find that, people aren't seeming to resonate, it's because your strategy isn't clear and it isn't super simple and you don't have it on a one pager. If you're trying to get alignment with your team, it's also the case that you probably don't have a one-page strategy. And so whether you are raising money, trying to drive alignment with your team, or even frankly trying to market what you're bringing to market to customers, having that clarity is going to help you get to success in a way that traditional strategies can't help you.
So, Katrina and Eddie, I have a fun little, I call it kind of a parlor game that I like to play when I meet new CEOs and their executive team, particularly one on one. I like to ask, hey, what's your strategy? And what happens, Eduardo, when one asks multiple executives in a company, what's your strategy? What happens?
Long story gets longer.
Yes, to make a long story longer. And while there's overlap in the long stories that get longer, often there's a whole bunch that's not consistent at all. And so, one of my favorite expressions, in category design, of course, we teach people listen to the words, listen to the words. And one of the things we hear in business all the time is, well, we need to get together to go to the strategic offsite so that we can all get on the same page. Does anybody ever ask, where's the page? So, Katrina, Eddie, why do we create this program?
Well, as you said, it's to give you the one page that's super clear, super compelling, so that everybody can get all aligned. When we hear big companies talk about strategy, it's either one of two problems. Long story gets longer, or wrong story gets wronger. And it's one of those two things. And so
The trifecta, the wrong long story gets longer. well, well, Jimmy, the problem with your strategy is it's wrong and long.
So we're here to help with that. The whole design behind it is brutal honesty. When you're wrong, we will be probably the only people to tell you that, unfortunately, because a lot of people lie with the truth and they don't want to tell the truth to other people, even when it's in their own best interest. Second thing is we're going to encourage you to be more courageous than you've ever been, because it does not actually pay to be courageous in strategy. Most people want to go for something and that's a little incremental so that they don't get held accountable for it. So courage is often in short supply. And probably the thing that I've learned the most, having been a growth strategist for 3 decades now, but really being a writer and an author for the last 15 years, is it's super hard to be concise and clear. And we always talk about clear, not clever. And it's not easy to get the right strategy with the fewest amount of words possible.
There's two elements of strategy we didn't touch on. In my mind, I did it purposely because you wanted short, but I just want to put it on the table to see if it fits anywhere. One is the performative clusterfuck, that it's really a budget fight discussion. It's got nothing to do with strategy planning. It's about executives warring internally for money. The second piece is the degree to which there's any strategy involved in strategy planning. It's almost always in the context of two things: the competition, how are we going to beat them, and what are we going to do? We're going to acquire a company, we're going to grow, we're going to expand in Singapore, whatever it is. Here's what it's never about: customers, their problems, their opportunities. Here's what it's never about: how are we going to solve in a transformative outcome way a material, new or different problem for a customer, such that we become the designers of a new way of thinking, a new approach, a new category, and become the category queen. It's not about that. It's always about money internally. It's always about competition, and it's always about us. It's never about customers, their problems and opportunities, and how to become the company that designs and dominates the category, because we know the data shows us one company earns 76% of the economics. And yet people annually go into the budget cycle and don't talk about how to win in the world. They talk about who's going to get the most money and what we should do and what the bad guys are doing.
The thing that's interesting, having built strategy for the Fortune 100 for the last 3 decades, is when you have a ton of resources, how simplicity is so important. For a lot of large companies, they have too many opportunities and too many resources. And so they don't actually do anything, and that strategy becomes performative. And that really the key for large companies is no different than the key for small startups or early stage companies, which is blank first. What are you going to do first of the many things that you can do? Steve Jobs has talked about, the secret to their success is saying no to many, many things and saying yes to very few things. And that the thing that is actually the key for large companies to survive strategy wise is actually the most imperative part, because early stage startups don't have the luxury of a second shot at it. You got one shot to get it right. So you got to choose the right thing first. And that's what really strategy therapy is about.
So in this course, we're going to walk you through the fundamentals of strategy therapy. You'll learn exactly what it is, how to use it. You'll learn some of the frameworks involved in it. Then we're going to take you into brutal honesty. Well, you will honestly assess where your company is currently at with its strategy. We're going to throw in a couple of AI prompts that you can use to help yourself make that very, very clear. So you can go on to the next step, which is radical courage. And this is going to help you get to that be different strategy. It's going to help you really narrow down your one-page strategy. And once you've gone through those steps, during that entire process, we have a feedback loop for you. So you're going to share your one-page strategy. We're going to give you feedback on it, and then you can use that information to really hone it and distill it into that very simple one-page strategy. We also have monthly live workshops, so you can come in, ask questions about your strategy, learn from other people who are going through the course. And we also have a community element, so you can talk to each other and learn from each other and help each other out.
When I look back at the companies that I've helped and that have had the most success, you can really boil it down to a set of choices and one prioritization that you can explain with clarity. That takes a lot of guts. So many of you have heard of me talk about my Swingline story. That's really about heavy duty and electric staplers come first, which is a far cry from the cheapest stapler product that you could have. And that sheer success has been an incredible driver for their business. When I think of my Keurig friends, why did Keurig succeed when Mars, Procter & Gamble, Sara Lee, Kraft were all gunning for the single-serve coffee business in the US, spending hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases? They went offices first. They were the only company to do that. And by the way, Nespresso got success doing that even across the pond. So these aren't novel strategies necessarily, but they are clear and they are compelling and they are brave, because going offices first was not an obvious strategy for most people to do, but that allowed them to actually generate WOM, word of mouth, in a massive way that helped them grow. And, even when I think about Gillette, work that I did back in the day around when they were launching the Mach 3 outside the US, they were like, should we go to India or should we go to China? India, I think the last calculation I heard, has a quarter of the world's hair by volume. So you might think India might make a lot of sense. And China has a lot of people like me that don't have a lot of facial hair. And so where would we go? We went China first, because the emotion and the psychology and the desire to trade up, to look good, the Gillette, the best a man can get, was really about helping young men aspire to more in their career so that they could eventually get the girl. But that aspiration was far more present and concentrated in tier 1 cities. And that's why they went China first versus India first. And so Everything that we do that I've ever seen has come down to honesty and courage and clarity. And that's what you're going to get from us in a way that you just can't get from your peers, even from your board, because they don't often know the answer.
The category is the strategy. The category is the strategy. That's the aha you come to. The second you learn, one company takes most of the economics. We've done the work. We know that one company earns 76% of the total value created in a new category. And in the S&P 500, companies that are viewed as category creators are 5x more valuable than companies that are not. When working on a strategy, we must realize what's at stake. And, you know, I'm often amazed today in business how nonchalant people are and how much the eye of the tiger is missing. There's massive at stakeness when trying to pioneer new things, when trying to do exponential work, when introducing to the world to a new way of thinking about a problem and therefore a new need for a solution. And so once you realize what's at stake, 76% of the economics, one company wins, everyone else gets fucked. Once you understand that, the category is the strategy. And the annual strategy planning discussion moves from an inane fight over budget that is largely performative to a radical focus on, can we create one page that makes it very clear how we are going to design and dominate our market category. So there's an aha I had early in my career. And it goes like this. At every company, at every enterprise of any size, there's a small percentage, a handful of leaders, of executives who make the material difference. Now, there's lots of people in big companies and lots of them do important things, but most of the things that most people do are incremental. They manage existing things, and the degree to which they drive change is around incremental improvements. Now, that's important. You take a lot of incremental improvements and put them together, and that can make a giant difference over time, for sure. So we're not trying to be pejorative about this. However, there's a very small percentage of creators, of entrepreneurs, of marketers, and of senior executives who ever truly work on the exponential. And those are the ones that make the material difference. They're the ones that are on the critical path for, is this enterprise, whether it's one person, 1,000 people, or 100,000 people, is this enterprise going to thrive and succeed going forward? This program is for people who want to be amongst those few material difference executives.